Welcome back, everyone. We're back again doing another kind of anime class into D&D 5e. And the last one I did was for dragon slayers from like fairy tale and stuff, and made them into a playable class. I've done the same thing again today. As you can see here, we've done I've called it a nature sage, but it's basically the sage mode kind of variant from Naruto. And like, so you have, we'll go through it here. So basically, sage mode or nature sage, a sage mode is an empowered state that can be entered by blending natural energy with one's own energy, creating senjutsu, which is nature energy or sage energy. Sage mode allows users to tap into the natural force of the world, opening up new techniques to them, allowing them to power up existing ones with new senjutsu energy. Basically, how they kind of they can absorb nature energy and become stronger, more powerful than they previously were. There are two types of or two schools known to teach sage mode: at Mount Moyoboku by the toads and at Ryuchi Cave by the snakes. Toad sages and snake sages. Users of sage mode must possess extreme constitution levels, so you can kind of summarize that up with your DM. I'd say probably like above 12 or 13 is usually kind of like above the normal rates, because like when you're going into like 20 and stuff, that's like your like monster level kind of stuff in terms of like normal PCs to player characters. So that's kind of 13 level. It seems kind of around there, especially if you want to multi-class into it. But you can always do your own thing. It's just a nice flavor text. Oh, excuse me. Users of sage mode must possess extreme constitution levels to invoke senjutsu. It is also important that their bodies must be strong enough to support the increased power, because you can have someone who could have the constitution, but like they could have a frail body and not have the possible outlook to. So basically, you have to have high con and high strength. So as much as some people might think this should be more of a monk based thing, I think it should be separate, because they're more combat based thing, but they will have a crossover with monk-ish kind of things. And then to get into senjutsu energy, in order to enter sage mode, the gatherer must remain absolutely still in order to become one with nature and balance the natural energy with their own physical and spiritual energies. If the user puts too little energy into using senjutsu, the technique will not work. So basically, if they're not meeting the requirements, so in this case to activate sage mode, they won't be able to enter it. So if you don't put in the desired workaround, you can't get into it. But so at level 1, the proficiency bonus is 2. They have an unarmed damage, which we'll get into in a moment, an unarmored defense, and martial arts. So that's kind of where we're going to get around this. They're going to be a 1d10 per nature sage level, so 10 plus your constitution modifier. No armor proficiencies, which is going to be important. Only simple weapons like kind of swords, short swords, daggers, knives, stuff like that. Saving throws will be strength and dexterity, and skills will choose from perception, animal handling, nature, athletics, investigation, just to keep those kind of ones, because you're going to be more like nature and kind of in the environment, so you want to be able to be kind of cognitive and aware of your surroundings. So perception, you're going to be dealing with animals, animal handling. Nature, obviously, because nature sage. Athletics, you want to be physically strong to get about the place, and investigation, just see anything out of the ordinary. And as then equipment, I kind of kept this the same. I'll probably keep this the same for most. Simple weapons, a dungeoneer's pack or an explorer's pack, and 10 darts. So simple stuff. Unarmored defense. While you're not wearing any armor, your armor class equals your dexterity modifier plus your constitution modifier. You can use a shield and still gain this benefit. So that's how you can kind of get around it. I'm not sure if the way I'll run this, if like you're not proficient with shields, then based in this class, you'd have to either get the feat to become proficient with shields, or maybe multi-class in something like fighter and get the shield benefit that way. So that's how you can get your AC up high. So basically, you're not going to be wearing armor, so that's how you're going to get through that physical resilience, but you're going to be gaining it through your unarmored defense. So you're going to be a natural born fighter. Not the class, obviously. And martial arts. At first level, you practice martial arts to give you mastery of combat styles that use unarmed strikes and any simple weapons, or melee weapons that don't have two-handed or the heavy property. You gain the following benefits while you're unarmed unarmed or wielding only simple weapons, and you aren't wearing any armor or wielding a shield. So basically, you can use unarmored defense, but if you're wearing a shield, like, you're not going to get the martial arts benefits. So that's something to keep in mind. You can use dexterity instead of strength for the attack and damage rolls of your unarmed strikes and simple weapons. You can do that, just like if you decide I'm going to be more of a high dex build, because you can run that way. But I'd say at the same time you might want to be a higher strength build, or possibly if your main attribute is going to be constitution, maybe second strength and then third dexterity, or you could do vice versa with the second dex and third strength. But obviously it's up to the player, but that would be my preference for it anyways. You can re-roll a d4. You can roll a d4 in place of the normal damage. So normal unarmed strike is 1 plus your strength bonus. So you can roll a d4 plus the strength of your unarmed strike or simple weapon. This die changes as you gain nature sage levels, as you can see back here. So it kind of keeps the same flow as a monk. Basically, you go up to 1d6 at level 5, 1d8 at level 11, and 1d10 at level 17. So you're kind of keeping that same increment as before. And then go back down here. As you can see in our damage column of the nature sage table, when you use the attack action with an unarmed strike or simple weapon on your turn, you can make an unarmed strike as a bonus action. For example, if you take the attack action and attack with a quarterstaff or a short sword or something, you can also make an unarmed strike as a bonus action, assuming that you haven't already taken the bonus action as an action this turn. So it kind of makes up the move economy, because you're going to be doing relatively low strikes, so it kind of balances out by giving you a slightly higher damage output. And then a natural strike, starting at level 2, you can throw aside all concern for defense to attack with guidance from nature. Basically, you let nature guide you, and you can find the swiftest way to connect with your opponent. When you make your first attack on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly, basically. So you can attack with advantage. Doing so gives you advantage on melee weapon attack rolls using strength / dexterity. I know reckless attacks would be more for barbarians, but I think it's appropriate for this one. This class is kind of a hybrid of barbarians and monks, but it's a balance, and I feel it might be slightly underpowered, but we'll see as obviously if it goes. I've made a few characters and they seem to play relatively well, so I'm not too sure, because obviously you have feats and stuff, and that could obviously add to the character and improve them even more than they already are. Sorry. When you make your first attack on your turn, you can decide to attack recklessly, giving you advantage on your strikes. But in that doing so, the way when you lean forward and allow nature to guide you on your strikes, you're going to leave yourself open, and possibly you might have lunged too far, and you're going to leave your underarm open, and someone could come along and try to slash at you in their follow up turn before you kind of regain your form. So it kind of gives it's almost that kind of combination, but I've changed to this dexterity and strength. With the reckless attacks, it's just strength based attacks, so it kind of balances up, especially when you can use your martial arts using dexterity if you'd like. So it kind of balances them out a bit, and you don't want to like have a reckless attack and possibly not do as much damage if you were to do it with dex. So you gotta be taking considerations for that. Ability score level 4, 8, 12, 16, 19. That probably should have been after nature path, but whatever. Nature path is your branch off point where you're going to decide if you're going to become a toad sage or a snake sage, basically. You must commit yourself to a sage style, either to Mount Moyoboku or Ryuchi cave styles. Your sage abilities grant you features at 3rd, 6th, 10th, and 14th level. So yeah, like typical stuff. I'll go through that in a moment, or after we go through the main kind of breakdown here. But so everything kind of gets the same kind of breakdown. They get different feats, or not feats, but features of their breakpoint. You can't see my hands here, but like they're going different directions. Beginning at 5th level, you can attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action on your turn. So in my mind, if you're going to do attack or going to do an attack, you could get 2 attacks, and as a bonus action you could possibly do a 3rd. That might be up to your DM, but I'm pretty sure that's the way it would read. So you could technically have 3 attacks level 5, which would be a bit crazy, but your damage output is quite low, so it kind of balances out. Then at level 7, natural instincts. Your instincts are so honed that you have advantage on initiative rolls. Additionally, if you are surprised at the beginning of combat and aren't incapacitated, you can attack you can act normally on your first turn. Basically, you become so in tune with the way your sage powers have kind of began to affect your body that you gain a certain normality with it, and you're more instinctively set, I guess. Senjutsu empowered strikes. Starting at 9th level, your unarmed strikes count as magical for the purpose of overcoming resistance and immunity to non-magical attacks and damage. It's pretty much like the key empowered strikes for monks, but it's just Senjutsu because they use Senjutsu. But yeah, it's the same thing, just to overcome resistance and immunity, just to balance them a bit so they're not going to be going up against opponents that are going to have resistances and just like dealing half damage the whole time and having to resort to doing reckless attacks and then leaving themselves open to follow up volley of attacks from their enemies. At level 11, there's Sage Mode. We'll stop here. We'll go look at the other ones so we can kind of reflect on this. So you saw Naruto there. Okay, so Nature Path, which is where we are. Sage Mode is known to be taught in 2 places: Mount Moyoboku by the toads and Ryuchi Caves by the snakes. So Toad Sage, which is the Mount Moyoboku sages. The Toad Sage is a type of nature sage that grants the user various characteristics typical of a toad that allows the user to tap into natural force of the world, opening up new techniques to them and allowing them to power up existing ones with new senjutsu energy. Basically, they're basically along the lengths of a basic monk before they branch off, but having this allows them to become something different. When you choose the Toad Sage breakpoint, your speed increases by 10 feet, and you have advantage on strength and constitution checks and saving throws. Toad Sages tend to be a little bit more physically strong. They have good good stamina, good strength, and they are quite quick, so it kind of balances out that way. Toad Sage is imperfect Sage Mode. So basically, when you're starting off, you're not going to be Naruto level Sage, like you're just going to be 100%. You're going to be imperfect, basically how like Naruto started off in the anime, where he had the kind of the frog features, or how Jiraiya has here, with like, it's not a perfect Sage, but it's imperfect, so he has flaws, but he's still in the kind of almost fully developed Sage. At 3rd level, by spending your turn focusing and not moving, which is where the kind of balance comes in. You have to become one with nature. I didn't want to do the normal, like what in the anime where they have to sit around for 5 minutes. Obviously that'd be crazy, because if you're going to have a combat session, what's that? 300? No, not 300. 30 rounds, I think? Yeah, 30 rounds if you're going to absorb and not get hit or anything. But basically, you have to stay still, focused, not move, not use your bonus action, not use your attack action or any kind of action. So you have to stand there. Either you can sit down, cross your legs, and meditate like how Naruto does in the anime, and kind of absorb nature energy that way, and then you go to Sage Mode. You can remain in this mode for up to 1 minute. You need to take a short rest before you can enter it again. So that's the only thing that's going to be a hiccup for basically this. But using it, there is a good bit of bonuses to it, so there is a balance. While using imperfect Sage Mode, the user takes a number of toad-like traits, so basically how the physicality of the person changes. With the Toad Sage, their nose grows bigger and gains sports, like how you can see with Naruto or Jiraiya here. They gain excess hair, so basically they kind of become more matty hair. If they don't have a beard, possibly hair grows further down. Imagine like the Teen Wolf werewolves from Teen Wolf, the TV show, where like they might have a normal haircut, and when they transform, the hair just comes out of nowhere. That kind of transformation. And then they gain toad-like eyes, so their eyes are going to become squinty, or amphibious-like. I think amphibious is a word. I'm not sure. Further transformational attributes include them taking on a toad-like stature, so they're going to be more the way they move and attack is way more animalistic than it would be as a normal person. So they might be more hunched down, more lower to the ground, possibly on all fours to get their attacks across. But as their body will kind of begin to mutate and not be the perfect Sage, but still have almost all the powers of a normal Sage, but be just slightly less. While in imperfect Sage mode, all melee attack rolls deal an additional +2 damage. So once you hit, you deal another. So say for example you roll 1d4 plus, so your strength is 16, so that's, you roll 2, you get +3 from your strength, and then another +2, so you're going to be doing 7 damage in a successful hit. Your AC is increased by 2, and you gain resistance to bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage. You're more physically hardy, and you kind of gain an amphibious skin, so that kind of outer layer where your skin's going to be absorbing all the brunt of the blows. Obviously, you're not going to have resistance to magical attacks, but you have some resistances. At 6th level, the Toads you gain Toad Sage's awareness. At 6th level, the Toad Sage gains advantage in the perception checks, just because you're become more balanced with the abilities of a Toad Sage, and you're going to be gaining more abilities, and so basically you can gain advantage, be more aware of your surroundings and everything. As with the anime, where they kind of gain the ability to perceive around them, so that's where this kind of comes from, just to keep it balanced and kind of keep it correct to the source. And then at 10th level, Toad Sage is in perfect Sage Mode attunement. I couldn't really come up with a better name than this, but this is what I could come with. It was either that or Sage Mode, Imperfect Sage Mode Part 2, but I want you to become like more attuned, like an attuned weapon. You've been in this mode enough times now that your body has started to climatize or attune, I probably should have said, to the form. So basically your body's more reactive to it, and you can get the best out of the abilities. You're now able to use Imperfect Sage Mode 3 times before needing a short or long rest. Melee attack rolls deal an additional +3 damage rather than your normal +2, and your AC is increased by +3. So it's not +5 from the basic one, it's just +3, just so you're going to get another bonus. And you're not too strong. The damage resistance carries over in this, but it hasn't changed, so I just kind of left it. And then at 14th level, Toad Sage's regenerability. At 14th level, you have gained the hardiness and regenerative abilities of a toad. When you drop below half hit points, you regain 5 hit points per turn till you go above half your hit points. So like say if your max is 20 and you go down to 10, at level 14, I hope it's not 20, but you get what I mean. So you could go down 10, and then on your next turn you regain 5 hit points, and then you stop because you're at 15, so it's above your max or your halfway point basically. Snake Sage then. Snake Sage is this is a kind of a copy of the other one, but just kind of changed up for the flavor of the Snake Sage. That came out weird. Snake Sage is a type of nature sage that grants the user various characteristics typical of a snake that allows the user to tap into the natural force of the world, opening up new techniques to them, allowing them to power up existing ones with new senjutsu energy. Once you select the Snake Sage at level 3, you will gain advantage on dexterity and wisdom checks and saving throws, so it's going to be very handy. As Snake Sages tend to be a little more, they're more dexterous, they're more nimble, they have better reflexes, and they're a little more less likely to be charmed and put under illusions and whatnot. And your dexterity score increases by +1, obviously to a maximum of 20, but yeah, so that's pretty handy, because like that'll increase your armor by 1 and increase your overall initiative and everything, so it's going to be a large bonus in the future. It may look kind of small in comparison to the Toad Sages, but it will balance out. And then obviously at the 3rd level, Snake Sage is in perfect Sage Mode. It's pretty much for this is pretty much the same as Toad Sages, it's just the flavor part of it's a little bit different. While using Imperfect Sage Mode, the user takes a number of snake-like traits. Their nose grows smaller and their face becomes more reptilian. They gain snake-like eyes, so kind of slits. Further transformational attributes include gaining scales, snake-like irises, rather than having the normal kind of dots, they have more slits. And a blackened sclera, which is the white part here for us, or the kind of the skin over it. They'll have a blackened thing, which is kind of going to give them where they gain that benefit from wisdom checks. Basically, they'll be less likely to become under the effects of visual based effects. Like if someone's like trying to charm them, they'll have an advantage over that because they won't be able to see, or the possible light that the person wants to hit you with, they might not go through. So that kind of thing. Snake Sage's awareness. At level 6, the Snake Sage gains advantage in blind sight 30 feet due to gaining and attuning to snake-like irises and blackened sclera from the imperfect sage mode. Just to add something a bit different than the Toad Sage. They already have they're going to have benefits from other things, but just I thought with having a darkened sclera, their obviously light source is going to be a bit darker, so they're going to gain a little more natural ability when it comes to blind sense. And then they'll also have what's normal snakes. They have I know it's not heat vision, but they search by thermal energy with their tongue, and they're basically able to kind of map their way around. So basically they're kind of using that kind of normal and applying it to that. So basically it's kind of like blind sense, so you're able to see where you want to be within 30 feet. Like obviously you're not going to be able to see miles away, but if anything's in your range, you'll be able to kind of figure out where it is, even if you can't see, if you're blinded or anything. And then at Snake Sage is imperfect Sage mode attunement, it's the same as the other one. They deal an additional +3 damage and increase AC by +3. And then Snake Sage's Shed Skin, it's a lot of S's. At 14th level, you have gained the ability of a snake. You may, as an action, shed your skin. You're able to lift any status effects, like example, poisoned, or if you and your other party members decide to go out drinking, you can decide, oh, I'm just going to go out in the corner and shed my skin, come out, and you'll be able to kind of relieve the status effects that was in your previous kind of skin, how the poison or toxins are floating around your body. It won't be for like abilities like sleep or paralysis, because you need to use your body to physically remove yourself. So if you're under some sort of spell or anything, that might not work. But if you want to, or a curse or anything, that would be more along the line of possibly affecting the person's soul or other kind of parts. But with poison and kind of like just lingering effects, stuff like that are more short term than long term, and non-magical, of course. And you can heal 2d20 or 2d10, and you have to take a short rest before you can use this ability again. So it's kind of balanced, but at the same time it does take an action to do. So like if you want to move and go, I'm going to hide behind this corner and then shed your skin, you won't be able to do anything else for your turn. So you gotta kind of take that into consideration. Obviously you can use it outside of combat and it'll be kind of quick, but yeah, it's kind of up your DM's discretion how long it's going to last. But those are the kind of or the nature path features that you get at level 3 and onwards, from 3rd level to 6th to 10th and 14th. And then we'll go back to now to some of the other ones that were more relevant to Sage mode, attributes that are going to be added on to the actual class, so we can cover them off. So we were at Sustained Sage mode. Starting at 11th level, you are able to enter Imperfect Sage mode by spending a bonus action. So before you had to use an entire round action, so you weren't able to move, do anything. Now you've become more acclimatized with the ability and you're able to enter it as a bonus action. So you're still giving up some abilities, but you're not giving up everything to enter it. So that's kind of one thing where it's starting to balance out, because I know like rage and stuff, it's a bonus action, but there's limited effects and you kind of get a little more out of Sage mode than you would rage, for example. At a 14th level, your training as a Nature Sage grants you proficiency in all saving throws, just to kind of keep it fresh and kind of give you a little more. You're not going to have all these amazing abilities, but you're going to have some quality proficiencies, and you're going to be able to make a lot of saves and everything. So yeah, so basically you're going to become very difficult to charm, poison, restrain. So you're going to become a bit of a monster to deal with, kind of, almost. And then at 17th level, you gain Perfected Sage mode. You're now able to enter Perfected Sage mode, similar to how Naruto is, where you keep your normal characteristics, but you only kind of change your eyes. If I see here, you retain all the normal characteristics of your character, except for toad-like eyes. Basically your pupils change to kind of a yellowy orange color. You have horizontal bars rather than the normal kind of circular pupils you have normally. And then you have the crimson orange pigments that outline your eyes, that are orange for toad sages and kind of a pinky purpley for snake sages. And when you enter into perfect sage mode, you can remain in this mode for 5 minutes, as like in Naruto, how he's able to last for 5 minutes, so it's more balanced that way. And you can use it 5 times per day rather than the usual 3 from the previous mode, which was at level 14, no, 10. Oh, went the wrong way. Sage mode, yes. So you can use it 3 times before needing a short or long rest. So at this level, you're getting 5, and you're gonna be able to use them for 5 minutes. While in perfected sage mode, all melee attack rolls deal an additional +5 damage. Your AC is increased by +5 rather than +3 before. It's now +5. So you're gonna be harder to hit, harder to deal damage, and you hit harder. So that's a lot of bonuses. And you gain resistance to both non-magical and magical bludgeoning, slashing, and piercing damage. Just so you're not completely resistant to all magic types, but you're resistant to those kind of slashes. So basically, if trying to think of a magical creature that could slash you, say like a magically enchanted sword or something. Before, that sword would deal you normal damage, but now it deals half damage because you are a perfected sage. You have mastered the nature abilities around you. But yeah, so you're more in tune with nature. You have a better understanding of your own body, and you're able to kind of negate damage to you from kind of standard means or magical means rather than normal like cantrips, as you can see here. And then at 18th level, you become an internal sage. You can now enter sage mode as a free action, and you can use it a limited times per day without needing a short or long rest. Basically, because you've become so acclimatized to the ability, you've become pretty much internal sage. You don't have to worry about anything. You're at level 18, you're pretty like, once you hit level 20, like, you're pretty much like almost god tier. Well, not god tier, but like definitely like world breaker, world changer. So yeah, as long as you can enter it, you can use it. So basically, and it's now a free action, but you do have to like basically say, I'm going to enter sage mode. Obviously DMs may be able to decide, no, I'm going to make this a bonus action still, but you can do it a limited times per day, or possibly use it as a free action and then make it a limited times per day. But at the same time, it's going to balance out because you're unlikely going to be in like 30 plus fights a day, so that's where it's going to balance out. But it is important to know that it doesn't last for unlimited times. It will be the same as the perfected sage mode that will last for 5 minutes. That's one thing just to note. So you're not going to be in it forever, because you still need the time to re-enter back into it. Primal Sage, at 20th level, you embody the power of nature. Your strength and constitution scores increase by 4. Your maximum for those scores is now 24. So you can have really high strength, really high constitution. So you're going to be an animal to deal with. You're going to have a crazily high constitution. Once you enter sage mode, your AC is going to be much higher. You're going to be dealing with a lot more damage, and you have some resistances. There's some magic types, and obviously you can well, actually at level 20 I was going to say you could multi-class, but at level 20 you can't multi-class because you can only take 20 levels. But obviously you could multi-class into different things and possibly gain different resistances at different levels. So you could do like Totem Barbarian and gain resistances to everything bar was it psychic damage or psionics, whichever one it is. But yeah, that's pretty much the class. I'm going to do the same as last time. I'm going to put a link up to my Google Cloud or my Google Drive account, and you'll be able to find this file here and download it if you want to use it. I'm considering putting it up on the DMs Guild, but I know it's a lot of stuff it's not really source material. It's not my own personal source material. It's other source material, so I don't really want to put it up there because I wouldn't obviously put it up for any sort of fees or anything, but it'd be kind of weird putting something that's not really your property up to distribute. But I'm kind of putting up my own one, so it's kind of different. I don't know, maybe. Sure, if you want me to put it up, I'll make one anyways. But yeah, sure, I'll end it there. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Also, this is coming out Christmas Day, so I hope everyone's had a good Christmas. And if you're watching it not on Christmas, I hope you had a good Christmas. But yeah, thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.